I'm showing up as an investor for the last 30 years, consulting for as many years, coaching businesses for the last 15 years, and I started a mentoring program that we call Peers on Demand as a way to connect leaders, trusted advisors to do business or refer business or join forces. Ageism, it depends who you are. But I think what it really is, the bias, is intelligence bias. How intelligent are you? Meaning the person, whoever you're facing or whoever you're thinking, or the group that you're in, how intelligent is that group? What is their level of intelligence? And that's difficult to gauge or judge because when we see ageism, we can see our outside exterior. It gives us away. It just does, gives us away. But we can't see inside the brain until they start talking. And even then, it takes a lot of talking to figure out how intelligent they are. And if they're talking intelligently enough about something that I care about. So intelligence is something that I think is a bias that will be more pervasive. More so, I think, than racism or ageism. I don't know what other biases there are. Whatever other ones. I think we're talking about intelligence that would be something that's a differentiator. And we can't tell until we have a discussion, right? Or when we're hired for an engagement or as a coach or a consultant or as an investor. Is this the right decision? Is this right communications? Are we on the right path? Is this something that's pertinent? Is this significant? And probably that's when it gets down to significance. I think of people that are under influence of alcohol or drugs. I can't help them. It's something that I can help them physically to get somewhere else, but intelligently, I can't have a conversation with them. They're not in a rational state, something that they would be expressing their full capability of intelligence. So I think that's where the next bias is going to be because of this. Because when we think of somebody that's intelligent, it's somebody that can communicate well, that can express themselves, have bright ideas, have creativity, can show up, can engage somebody, have relationships, personal, individual, self, and with others. So all of those, we start to think, so one of those eventually will head and say, I like him because, or she because of this or that. Those are intelligences that in a younger person, they would express them a lot more. Not so much the experience, but their enthusiasm, their vitality, their energy. At least that's what I correlate a younger person. Although that's shifting because of the obesity in the young kids. I don't know how this is going to play out, but they're still intelligent here, just not physically intelligent if they are obese. So I think our bias and predisposition is that 20, 30-year-olds, 40-year-olds, they're intelligent because they're young, because they're vital. They're open to ideas. They're able to communicate. They're able to be energetic, and they're able to show up. They're able to show up because they can. They don't have to have a cane. They don't have to have a wheelchair. They're not having issues. And that's what I think is our bias, except for one thing, that as we age, we're going to recognize that we need to be smarter. We need to be more intelligent. We need to be able to show up better in multiple areas to thrive. And what I'm finding out is that the more that we live, the longer that we live, certainly our physical capabilities decline after 20 or after 30. We just do because of inactivity or because there's a lot of different factors. So a 20-year-old versus an 80-year-old, a 20-year-old is going to be faster, stronger, physically, more or less than on the average. In experience, maybe the 80-year-old has more experience if they have cognitive reasoning, if they kept their mental acuity. So it's very intricate, the intelligences that we have in our mind. And it's because of that, because we can't see it and we have to wait until it shows up, that we don't know what we don't know until later on when they actually show up. Intelligence bias is what we're going to be looking for because it's complex, difficult to gauge, but also because as technology shows up, our intelligence could potentially increase. Our intelligence decreases now, and I'm taking the 80-20 rule that 80% of the population is decreasing in their mental intelligences because of aging and also because of all different factors that they're not doing the right things. Alcohol, drugs, opioid, not working out, not moving, like you said earlier. They just don't know what to do to enhance their mental capability. Now, physical, we do. We will go work out, run, eat the right things, all those things. And of course, if you do all those things, it affects our mental intelligence capabilities. But not so much, because the chemicals in our brain, our natural chemicals, decline. Apparently, when you're younger, and a lot of vitality, 20s, 30s, 40s, we have the ability to create more dopamine. We get excited, we get responses, we can take risks, and we get more dopamine. As we progress in age, so 40s, 50s, 60s, then, and I was probably speaking about myself too, I get settled in some ways that I have a lot more security, a lot more that I've gained, more stability, and I just want to be compliant. I just want things to stay the same. That's a chemical called serotonin. So serotonin kicks in more so. Now, of course, there are some people that can take risks and go get more dopamine. And so we have dopamine in the early years. In the middle years, we have more serotonin. And in the later years, I think it's more declining, and I think cortisol shows up more often. I mean, we have that throughout our lives. We tap into that. So it's a question of how much does it show up? Because cortisol is, and it may be tied into the physical capabilities, if there's a decline in that. But cortisol shows up with struggling, with hesitancy, with hard. It's difficult. It's one of those that we avoid, or people avoid, in case of fight or flight situations. So now we have a chemical play in our brains, in our minds, in our intelligences as we go through life. And so I don't think we're totally aware of that, or we know how to correct that. Because I think everything's correctable if we could understand it and be able to define what the issue is and the challenge. But I think so far, from what I understand, people are not really addressing it directly. And so when you have an older person with a lot of cortisol, more so, less dopamine,